Earlier today, I named attention that usually arrives as a sign of growth. More people want access, more doors are open, more conversations become possible. And from the outside, that looks healthy. It looks like momentum. It looks like expansion. It looks like that the work is being recognized. But inside the responsibility of leadership, something begins to feel different. The calendar fills with possibilities that seem reasonable. The inbox carries opportunities that do not feel wrong enough to dismiss. People begin expecting access because access has been available before. And underneath all of that is a pressure that most leaders do not name all at first. The pressure of leaving too many things open. Nothing's broken, but something has shifted. At one point, availability to work. It helped the leader to stay close to opportunity. It kept relationships alive. It made the business feel reachable, responsible, positioned. Being available made sense when the room was smaller, when the decisions were fewer, when every opening could still be personally evaluated. Yet then the responsibility changed. The business became more visible. The leader became more trusted. The work started attracting people who wanted access to the thinking, the judgment, the relationship, the proximity. And with that came more doors. Not bad doors, just more. More introductions, more requests, more conversations that might become something. Now, more opportunities are not wrong, but they're not clearly right. The operating assumption stayed. The leader kept treating access as neutral. Kept treating open doors as optional. Kept assuming that because something had not been chosen, that it had not yet cost anything. But open options still take up space. They require more memory. They require emotional tracking. They require quiet consideration in the background. They sit inside the week without being on the calendar. They shape decisions without being formally acknowledged. And this begins to show up in small ways. A leader delays closing a conversation because the relationship may matter later. A proposal stays alive because saying no could require more finality than the moment seems to deserve. A team waits because leadership hadn't decided whether the opportunity belongs. The leader keeps the door open because the downside of closing it feels more visible than the cost of leaving it open. And over time, the cost becomes harder to ignore. Direction starts competing with availability. The calendar stops reflecting priority and starts reflecting access. The leader becomes easier to reach than to understand. People begin bringing more things to the leader because the pattern has trained them to do. And eventually, availability becomes part of the system. Now, no single door looks expensive, but together they begin to consume attention. They consume decision energy. They consume the leader's ability to know what actually matters now. What are you keeping open because it will force you to admit it no longer belongs? What are you keeping open because closing it will force you to admit it no longer belongs? If the right people were speaking privately, the patterns would not sound dramatic. They would all sound familiar. Someone would say that there are too many conversations still alive. Someone would admit that several opportunities have remained under consideration for months. Not because they are strategic, because no one has wanted to close them. A founder might describe looking at the calendar and realizing that it's full of things that they once were optional. An executive might notice how often the same opportunity returns to the table without becoming clearer. An institutional leader may recognize that the organization keeps absorbing requests because the refusal would require stronger definition of direction. No one will call it misalignment. They will call it being responsive. They will call it maintaining relationships. They will call it keeping the options open. And all of that would sound reasonable. Teams adapt around this. They learn that they learn what leadership has not closed. They learn which questions remain suspended. They learn where direction is firm and where it can still be negotiated. And eventually, the team starts carrying the ambiguity too. Not loudly, yet operationally. In delayed decisions, in repeated check-ins, in work that starts without full conviction, in meetings that exist because something has not been made unavailable. And what continues because it still works begins to hide what it costs. What continues because it still works, because it hides, it begins to hide what it costs. The open door still produces possibility. The conversation still carry potential. The relationship still feels valuable. The opportunity might matter. So it stays. And because it stays, it competes quietly. And over time, availability becomes expensive. Not because opportunity is wrong, because direction requires some things to remain unavailable. And when too few things are closed, leadership becomes a place where everything waits. Now, none of this needs to be resolved right here. No door has to be closed after you watch this video. No explanation, has to be formed. You can carry all of this back into the week without changing anything immediately. Just notice what is still open. Notice what continues to ask for your attention without earning direction. Notice what remained available longer than it should have. And notice where the decision, I repeat, notice where the decision was already in the room before anyone named it.